Hello, everyone. During the 1990s, a guy named Rob McEwen became the CEO of a Toronto-based gold mining company called Goldcorp. McEwen was a mutual fund manager who got caught in a corporate takeover battle and eventually emerged as the majority owner. Now, Goldcorp was struggling. It was besieged by strikes and lingering debt, and its exceedingly high cost of production had forced it to shut down its mining operations. And on top of this, the gold market in general was contracting, and most analysts believed that the company's 50-year-old mine in Red Lake, Ontario was probably dying. There was no evidence of any new gold deposits, and most people believed that the company would probably go down with the mine. Now, McEwen had no real experience in the extractives industry, but a lot of people were skeptical that he had any ability to turn things around for the company. But McEwen was determined to do so. And so one day he called together the company's geological team, and he sat them down in a room, and he said to them, "We are going to find more gold on this property, and we are not leaving here tonight until we have a plan to do so." So the team set to work, and they poured themselves into their data, and they started intensely studying their maps. And they left the meeting that night with an entirely new exploration plan and a $10 million budget to execute it. And they started drilling. And they started testing and drilling and testing and drilling and testing, and they could not find any more gold. And after years of further exploration and extreme frustration, Rob McEwen decided to take some time off for personal development. In 1999, he attended a conference at MIT, where he heard for the very first time the story of Linux. Now, in case you're not familiar with Linux, it's a computer operating system similar to Microsoft Windows or Mac OS, that was developed by a guy named Linus Torvalds. Now, what made Linux unique is that after Torvalds had developed its initial infrastructure, he took his code and he published it on the internet. And he invited developers around the world to download it and to work on it with him and to change it. And McEwen thought that this was the most interesting thing that he'd ever heard. And so he said to himself, if we can't find our own gold, maybe somebody else can. And he rushed back to Toronto and he called together his board. And he said to them, let's take all of the geological data that we have ever collected, all the way back to 1948, and let's publish it. And in March of 2000, the company launched the Goldcorp Challenge. And they offered $575,000 to anybody who could help them identify target locations on their property where there might be gold. Now, if you're not familiar with the intricacies of the mining industry, God forbid, it's an intensely secretive industry. And next to maybe the gold on a company's actual property, its geological data is one of its most precious and carefully guarded resources. You do not just give it away. And so, needless to say, news about the Goldcorp Challenge spread around the internet like wildfire. And people rushed to their website to start looking over the numbers and crunching the data. And as expected, many of these people were geologists. But they were also graduate students in physics and people from the fields of applied mathematics and organic chemistry and computer science. And suddenly the game changed, because instead of a small, centralized group of geologists, Goldcorp now had a large, diverse team of minds from around the world attacking their problem from 1,000 different angles. And within weeks, submissions started flooding into the Goldcorp office, and Rob McEwen fell out of his chair because the contestants had identified 110 target locations, of which it turned out that 80% of them yielded substantial quantities of gold. And McEwen was very pleased. And so were his shareholders, because the contestants had not only yielded 8 million ounces of new gold, but they had catapulted an underperforming, failing $100 million company into a $9 billion juggernaut. And if you had invested $10,000 in Goldcorp back in 1993, it would now be worth over $300,000. But who would have known? What made Rob McEwen unique is that he realized that he and his team did not have the ability to solve their problem alone. He realized that there were thousands of uniquely qualified people outside of his company, and if he could only just somehow include them, he could leverage the incredible power of collective genius. And what Rob McEwen did has a name. It's called crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing is the act of outsourcing tasks normally performed by employees or contractors to a large group of people through an open call. And jumping back to Linux, Linus Torvalds did the same thing. What made his software unique was that it was open source. Open source is a development philosophy that promotes free redistribution and access to a product's design and implementation details. Linus took his product, he published the code on the internet, and he invited people to work on it and to change it. And while Goldcorp is a for-profit company, Linux is free. And thousands of people work on it every day for free. And they work on WordPress. And they worked on the Human Genome Project. And they work on Wikipedia. And while sometimes people work on these projects for profit or to build their resume, a lot of the time they just work on them because they're just genuinely interested in them and they care about them. More than ever before, the world is connected. Technology has allowed us to communicate with people around the world and to work together to solve complex problems. Large-scale projects are being undertaken right now by teams numbering in the thousands and even millions. And groups of like-minded people are accomplishing incredible tasks that were once undertaken only by large organizations. But crowdsourcing can happen on a small scale too. Groups of 10 can become 100, and groups of 1 can become 10. Really what it's about is a philosophy of being open. And so as you think about social innovation, you should remember that other people probably care about the same things that you do. And if you can harness that collective genius, you can change the world. Thank you.